And we're online.
Where am I?
Android South 12.4, you're exactly where you need to be. And we're going to start activating Project Sabotage. Hello and welcome back to The Economy Lately. I'm Anthony Smith, Chief Economist here at FreightWaves, and this is episode 17, and I'm joined by the one and only South Turk.
Yes, Anthony. Nice to be here.
It's great, man. We got to hit the streets last week. We got to see what's going on in this universe. Seems like a lot of the same, but I have a good feeling about this place.
Yes, me too. This is great. I remember all of that.
Why are you talking like that? What's up with that accent?
Talking like what?
It's like a British accent you're doing there.
This is not British. What are you talking about? How do you know Britain exists in this universe if you're so new to it?
You're doing some kind of strange accent. I don't know what's going on. And what's up with that ridiculous mustache?
What mustache, Anthony? You have a ridiculous mustache.
Also, you haven't blinked in the last 17 minutes, and when you did, you closed one eye before the other, and it was very pronounced and strange.
Why don't you focus on the economy, Anthony, and not my blinking?
Something weird going on south, and I don't know what it is, but I don't care enough right now. I'm going to figure it out, though. CPI, or Consumer Price Index, and people were shook at this release. When we look at it, it was up 0.1%. And you might be thinking to yourself, we've been dealing with this CPI or inflation thing for a while. 0.1% doesn't seem like a lot, but like last month's CPI, we got to dive into the details, and this is even more pronounced than it was then. So last month, we saw a 0% movement, which was flat, and people took as a good sign because inflation wasn't getting worse. And we said that, hey, this was a lot due to energy prices coming down, but a lot of the other segments came up or remained very much elevated. The story was the same this month again. So when we looked at the CPI, we saw that energy prices came down 5%, but the other subcomponents remained elevated or even increased in most instances. So that's showing that the consumer price index is still very much active and still very much elevated, showing that there's still inflationary pressures. We look at different components within the CPI, we see that there was indeed an increase that was for food, which was up 0.8%. That's essential. Shelter up 0.7% and apparel up 0.2%. So these are all things that are going to contribute to, of course, the cost of living. And when we look at this, it's all going to be factoring into consumers' abilities to spend and buy goods and services outside of those essential goods. This is going to be a problem, especially when we look at freight activity. But when we look at what this all means for where we're going in the future, especially from the government standpoint, the Fed is likely going to use this as fuel for continuing to raise interest rates. Federal Chair Jerome Powell is looking to be tough on inflation. And he's looking to channel his inner Paul Volcker to challenge this inflation fight and be hawkish and hard on inflation, and is saying that there's likely going to be some pain around this. And we'll see about that. We'll see how aggressive he's going to continue to be in the face of inflation, as some of the other macro indicators may be continuing to show some signs of weakening, especially with unemployment really starting to show some cracks, even though we are starting to see some tick up in the participation rate ever so slightly, and we're starting to see some initial jobs claims come down. This is also going to be a strong driving factor for Federal Chair Jerome Powell to start to continue to increase interest rates moving forward. Now, continuing around those interest rates is going to have significant implications for business conditions. And speaking of business conditions, we have to talk about industrial production. So we're seeing in manufacturing that there's been a lot of pull forward happening. And this has just been a lot of just in case scenarios instead of actual just in time or needed inventory. And this is going to be concerning as we continue to move throughout the remainder of this year to see how needed some of this inventory is, especially upstream. Now, this is also going to have implications for freight, especially when we look at the flatbed trailers and, of course, South boat trailers.
Oh no, not the faux try. Nothing but the faux try.
Is it a Scottish accent that you're doing? Jamaican?
No, Anthony.
I get the two confused.
No accent. I do not do accents.
I don't know what it is, but I'll figure it out. There's something going on here. But manufacturing, there's a lot of interesting trends going on there, and we're going to get a little bit more of a clearer view as we dive into that industrial production report that gets updated this week, and we'll dive into the details again next week's update around the economy lately. Another update that's going to be happening this week before the time of this recording is going to be retail sales. Last month's update showed a flat trend of 0%. A lot of that came down to, of course, like the CPI, gas prices. So gas prices in the CPI came down, as I mentioned earlier, 10.6% thereabouts for gasoline specifically. Retail sales for gas stations also came down pretty substantially in the last update for the retail sales update. And that really was the main driving point for reducing overall retail sales. Should it also be noted that retail sales, the headline number is not adjusted for inflation, but a lot of the same is likely going to happen this upcoming report. We're likely going to see some easing once again for gas station prices and things like that for retail sales at gas stations. But other segments and other components of the retail sales report will likely show some increases. And of course, it's not adjusted for inflation. So if we were to by chance see any kind of positivity in any chance, you can think inflation. If we see any downward movement, it's because we saw some downward movement in gas prices, most likely, and that other components of the retail sales report is likely going to remain somewhat elevated. But if that's not the case, of course, we're going to jump into that report again next week to dive into some of those intricate trends. And of course, we have to get into honorable mentions and updates for the upcoming week. So honorable mentions, initial jobs claims. The report before this recording had it at 222,000 initial jobs claims. So that's a downward movement and it's great news. I would love to see it continue to stay low and at a subdued level. I want to see fewer people filing for an initial jobs claims unemployment benefits. Seems like a mouthful, South, but want to see more people being employed and not having to file for benefits like that. So that's going to be something that we watch closely. Still not completely sold on it at all whatsoever. Previous reports, we've seen that hiring has slowed down. We're seeing that the quit rate is starting to ease up a little bit. So consumers maybe not feeling as confident. So I'm going to be diving into all those trends as they continue to get updated and released. We also have updates, of course, coming from Jerome Powell. We'll see how hawkish he remains to stay on these interest rates, and I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say in the upcoming week, and I'm sure the markets will react rationally. I'm so sure. We also have updates around housing starts, South. It's going to be another faux try.
Oh, no, not faux try. No.
Is this like a Dutch accent?
Yes.
Like the Netherlands or something?
Uh-huh.
German?
Yes, exactly that. Yes. Uh-huh. You are correct, Anthony. You are so smart. Nothing to worry about.
Scandinavian. I can't place my... Something's... Anyway, so we're going to have a lot more updates coming up in the upcoming week, and I'll be here. South, I'm sure you'll be here as well.
No, we will both be here, Anthony. Why would we not be here, huh?
We'll see you next episode. Wish me luck.